Welcome back to the Trampled Underfoot podcast show. This is Mark Lindsay and Eloy Escajedo coming at you live. How's everybody doing?
Well, if I knew where I lived, I'd run away from home. It's just another day in paradise, man.
That's right.
Been working like crazy and I'm tired. I'm ready to sit down on my tail end and do a whole heck of a lot of nothing. How about yourself?
Oh, nothing. I got some new, um, sort of like I went for these glasses that have the Buddy Holly, which my grandfather used to wear this type of thing, and I put it on and I was looking in the mirror, although I'm fatter by a lot, by a lot. My grandfather and my face, I kind of look a bit like my grandfather, with these on,
Mhm.
and I was like, oh, well, this is appropriate. So I got the glasses and stuff, did some shopping, and nothing, man. Walmart had no. I mean, I don't know that people are interested necessarily about Walmart, especially like 200 years from now. That is if the internet's still working, but they didn't have a lot of cashiers, and I was doing my groceries.
Uh-huh.
Stopped at the glass thing, did the glass, and then went towards the little teller, the registers. And I noticed that there was a line that curved around, like snaked around, and like all these other normal registers, like down the lane, were completely empty and shut down. And I came up to the two ladies standing there watching the whole, self checkout area, and I said, "Oh, excuse me, ma'am. Are you going to open up another? Obviously, there's need for another. Are you going to open up another register?" And she said, "No, we're not opening. We don't have enough employees. Half of the people took vaccines, and they're all sick with fever in bed."
Oh, jeez.
And I was like, so basically, they're, which is a good. And so I said, okay, and then I decided to walk around the Walmart to see if it would. You know how if you do that, you could have two situations. It could empty out, but more than likely, it just keeps filling itself because it is Walmart.
Yeah.
By the time I come back, they're opening one, and they're arguing, the two ladies, don't open another one because then we're going to have to go every time there's a problem. This and that. The other lady, look, the lines are too long now. And they were fighting, and I was sitting there hoping and praying, and they opened it up, and I went whoop, right in and got my butt out of there. So I call that a good day.
Yeah. Yeah. One small victory at a time, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I used to, I think we've talked about this before, but I don't remember if it was on the podcast or if it was just us BSing behind the scenes. But I used to resist using self-checkout.
Mhm.
I really did, because I was like, well, that's somebody's job. And I don't work here. Why should I have to scan my own groceries and this, that, and the other?
Mhm.
Now I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with, any of the stuff. Whatever line is the shortest is what I get into. If it's self-checkout, fine. If there's a cashier there, fine. I just don't care.
Mhm.
Because I stopped myself and said, well, wait a minute. Why are you so concerned about, standing in solidarity with the cashiers? You don't go into the bank unless you absolutely have to. You have no problem using an ATM machine. You don't go down to the bank and write a check to get cash to pay a cashier cash. You're happy to use your card.
Yeah.
There's plenty of times and plenty of places where you don't want to interact with another person. You'll do things with a machine. Why is this? What made this the hill to die on? So I just quit thinking that way, and now I don't care anymore.
I'm with you on that. I used to
So.
think just like you, and I changed my. And you know what? Another thing, people don't know what $100 real ones and fake ones look like, especially if they're the older ones.
Mhm.
I'm happy to do the self checkout because the lady is always looking at it, and then she lowers the bill and with her eyes and looks at you and then looks at the bill, takes the pen, does the rub this and that, whatever, the whole process, and you're sitting there and you're like, nowadays $100 is like $10 at the end of the day. And with the self checkout, you just pop it in the machine. The machine will tell you. And guess what? 99.9%, actually 100% of the time in my case, it's always saying, yeah, that's a good $100 bill. Let's keep going, buddy.
Yep.
So, I know they have to check and all that, but the
Sure.
whole human interaction, it's important. I understand, but I like controlled levels of that. So
Yeah.
I'm with the automation.
Yeah, automation is great in a lot of aspects. There are certain things that automation can't do, but I mean, let's just face it, it's the 21st century. And so if a machine can do your job, one day it will. So you need to get marketable skills that it's difficult to make a machine do.
You need to study now for things that will be useless by the end of your stint in schooling, as has occurred through with many different disciplines.
Oh yeah,
There's disciplines that are always be in demand, though, such as I can just think of doctor. That's an important one.
Well, we're always going to need we're always going to need tradespeople. We're always going to need people who can come out and run electrical, work on plumbing, HVAC. We're always going to need tradespeople. They haven't invented the machine yet that can come in and paint a house that to any kind of a good standard anyway. But that's not to say that won't happen, just that it isn't there yet. Yeah. So,
I could foresee houses with like some sort of stuff stuck into the walls mixed with the concrete stucco or something, and you press, like, how our LEDs, you can press a little control. Hey, how about a fuchsia for today, honey? Yeah. I could see that sometime.
You know what? That's actually not out of the realm of possibility. All you have to do is have that porous coating or even an electronic coating, to where you could have like a thin film that you put up on the wall in lieu of paint, and then all of a sudden you're out in a meadow and the grass is blowing back and forth in the breeze and everything else.
Wouldn't that be trippy if all houses in a town, and they ran it on quick change, where the colors are just going? Could you imagine the insanity of that? There'll be bylaws. They'll actually, I could foresee local governments going at it. I mean, they're like, oh, that's a good place. That's some place that leaks. Let's go plug that one up, gentlemen. I could totally see, no matter what.
Dude, you would be amazed. One guy set up a website as a joke, where it was the premise of the website was internet hunting. Okay. It was a joke. Basically, it was a rifle on a tripod, and you could, if you had the right, extensions on your browser and everything else, you could go in and use your cursor keys. You could aim the rifle and then shoot it. It was a joke. You couldn't do anything. Right? 4 states have outlawed internet hunting.
But what was the target?
There wasn't one. That was the thing. It was just a rifle on a tripod out in the woods.
Yeah, people, because it's just, I don't want to get really into it, but I just want to say that one of my pet peeves has always been for some, I don't want to say for some reason, but it's the whole craving, salivating, frothing at the mouth to control things that don't need to. People should leave people. I'm a stickler for that. And I think that there's way too much ridiculousness, like what you just said, that I don't want to say it teased me off, but I'll just say that it teased me off. It teased me off because it's so abusive. Let people live.
I got one for you, and this kind of falls into a different category, but what the heck, it is related. Talking about internet hunting, there is no such thing at all.
Okay.
But do you remember, this is back in 2003, all of a sudden there was something called hunting for Bambi?
I Do not.
It was a major, major controversy. It was 100% a hoax. But the premise of this was men would pay $10,000 each for a chance for the challenge of tracking with a paintball gun and shooting women who were nude except for sneakers out in the deserts near Las Vegas. Okay. That was the premise of this. And this guy set up this website and, was saying, okay, you too can go hunt for Bambi. And Bambi was some hot chica who was nude except for a pair of tennis shoes. And you had to track her and then shoot her with a paintball gun. It was 100% a hoax. There was no such thing. People went crazy over this thing. I mean, people were up in arms. Oh my God, you can't do that. What does this say about women's rights and this, that, and the other? There was no such thing. It was a hoax. It was a manufactured hoax by a guy who wanted to see what would happen.
Wow. I mean,
I think that kind of thing is flipping hilarious myself. I really do. Some folks might see that as just somebody being a jerk. Why would you do that to people? Why would you do that? I think it's hilarious.
I mean, so I don't know that I would be interested in partaking in that. I mean, beautiful lady, I don't want to shoot her. I want to take her home.
Right.
But the thing is that whatever, number one, it's online, so it's virtual. But it's like, you know what it is? Before, we would have our local and we'd have our national and world news. But we only kind of got the information at, the evening news, morning news, and this and that. And then your break, special, what did they call it? News break flash?
News flash, yeah.
Yeah,
breaking news.
Yeah, so you'd have these things, and you'd have the radio too. And that was a lot. And so people would get informed like that, but they'd be dealing with local. And so, around the coffee shop, Cuban cigars and stuff, people would be talking about local and then national, but within the cluster of that. Whereas now we have it full throttle, 24/7, whatever you want. And so, of course, I'll get passionate if I see something that happened in Taiwan or North Korea or something, somebody trying to cross a border. And to you, it's real right now, but you're living 8,000 miles away. There's people, so we get entangled in this bigger global thing.
Yeah, we do. And I think there is a certain percentage of the population who really craves that a certain level of outrage over the course of the day. There's got to be something to get them riled up, and they crave that. They need that. They can't just have a contented life. And some people know that, and they feed on that. And yeah, there's trolls all over the place. They'll do whatever it takes to stir it up and then sit back and watch. That's how they get their jollies. Okay, fine, great. It takes all kinds. But I think we do that to ourselves more than anything else.
We kind of do.
I mean, this hunting for Bambi thing, I just looked it up, and it was actually kind of funny when you think about it. It was a series of hoax videos that were publicized in 2003. And this was a fictional competition created by a guy in Florida. Why am I not surprised?
I have something to say about the Florida thing when you're done with that.
The premise of it was that male hunters would pay anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a piece for the privilege of hunting "quote unquote" Bambis and picking them off with paintballs. The Bambis were paid $2,500 if they avoided getting hit, and $1,000 if they did get hit. Okay, so it was a competition to see who was the best "quote unquote" Bambi hunter. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, these videos were done in the style of like a reality show. And this is something I didn't know. He was actually selling the videos, but it was 100% staged. The Bambis and the hunters were all hired by this guy. So this was a thing to just
Make
sell
money.
videos.
Yeah.
That was all it was for.
Yeah. So everybody was benefiting.
Right. But he kept saying it wasn't a hoax. It wasn't a hoax. It wasn't a hoax until they started talking about prosecuting him for what laws I don't know. But then he said, no, the whole thing's a hoax. And he showed behind the scenes footage and everything
Yeah.
else.
These people, I mean, look, I understand. It's just, it's such a complicated thing, but it's so simple. People think there's certain people that think that they should have the access to power because they can protect you. And, but I don't understand why people, unless it's psychological, I have it very clear, and I could be wrong, but I think I'm right, obviously, because I'm going to say it. If you think you can go and protect people by going and getting power and being in a position of power, you could think that your ideas are great, but I believe that you should also carry with you a nice little handbag that you open and it reads, whatever you think is great will be great for some people and detrimental for a whole other bunch of people. So whatever action we take and whatever comment we make will affect people depending on their leanings and situations in different ways. So it's really a yin and yang thing. There's no one size fits all for every thing. And that's the trade-off we deal with.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's also no counting for personalities of the population, because you're right. A certain percentage of the population thinks they need to have somebody in authority to protect them.
Yeah.
You know, they want that. They want that level above them.
Well, and they'll give them carte blanche. And that's and the problem is not having a person that people coalesce around as a representative. The problem is not necessarily that, although it leads to, it's not that. We need that sort of structure because it's worked in Western society. The problem is that they give them the whole enchilada, and you can't give people with power carte blanche because they will do things maybe with good intentions. If they're not corrected, if you don't get pushback, those in your mind good intentions are affecting a whole slew of people that adversely affected is damaging them. And you need to be so humility, even in power. I think that there needs to be humility. I think.
Well, there needs to be that humility needs to be taught to our kids and our grandkids, as well as self-reliance. And that's something that we have gotten away from. We have this communal thought process going on now, and it takes a village and community. It's all about community. It's all about self-reliance. Take care of yourself and mind your own business. That's what needs to be taught, because if you can take care of yourself, that's one less person for the community to worry about.
Yeah.
If your neighbor can take care of himself, that's two people. Just take care of yourself. Be self-reliant. You shouldn't rely on other people for, your daily bread, your life, your livelihood. I mean, if you go get a job, it's up to you to get there. You have to be self-reliant, because nobody's going to do it for you. You have to do it yourself, but we don't teach that.
No.
We teach that you can rely on the community. Well, as we saw with a number of things that broke down over the last 12, 18 months, sometimes the community just isn't there. Sometimes the community is busy with other things. Then what do you do? Well, here locally, we had fires take out 2 cities, basically.
Okay.
There was no community. Then COVID, everybody on lockdown, and all that other good happy horse stuff going on with that, surrounding that, there was no community there. You had to do it yourself. I mean, anecdotally, we had people in the grocery line asking folks, how do you cook chicken? They'd never had to do it before, but all the McNuggets were gone, and all that was there was chicken in the meat department. You know, we the family dinner table has come back. It may be temporary, but it got to the point to where Jimmy wasn't running off to McDonald's with his friends, and Joni wasn't ordering a pizza because the pizza place was closed down. You know, well, mom's got to somehow come up with something for these rugrats to eat. Time to learn how to cook that chicken.
Talking about the dinner table coming back. This is not the dinner table coming back, but when I was at Walmart, obviously you remember, and I'm just going to speak for you that you remember, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. Back in the day, you'd go into a department store. It could be a Kmart or any sort of Sears or anything, especially Kmart, at least around here. And we had a Zayres over here, which was very popular, Kmart style. And over the loudspeaker, they would say, if you go over to the pizza section, you know, we're doing 2 slices, buy one, get a second slice free, you know, or you know, over in the jewelry section, we have a special discount for bracelets and such and this, and they'd have like these little or greetings and this and that. I hadn't heard that in a long time. I mean, you usually hear, Martha, come to register 5, please. We've got to. That's all I hear. But they were doing that in the speaker, but they weren't saying that. They were saying some other stupid thing. But it reminded me of back in the day, they used to have these call to action over the loudspeaker, and I found it, even though I hated the messaging was stupid, but and the way the guy was speaking reminded me of back in the day and stuff, something that I hadn't heard in a long while.
You remember the flashing blue light special at Kmart?
I don't remember that.
You don't? They had this. They had a blue, looked like the revolving light on top of a police car.
Oh, okay. It
was blue. It was on a chrome post on a little walnut melamine roll around cart. And had batteries in it, and they'd flip on a switch, and the blue light would go on. The blue whoopee light would go on, and they'd push it around to certain departments. Then they'd give those announcements over the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, that flashing blue light is back in the electronics department, where we have 3 packs of Maxell C90 cassettes for $1.99 for the next 5 minutes only. Thank you for shopping your friendly local Kmart.
Yeah,
you know. Stuff like that. That was all over the place, man.
But
it just reminded me of that.
Wasn't it cool though? And because, you know, the whole interaction, I don't know, it was a cool thing. But so going back to the Walmart, going back to the Florida man, because you mentioned Florida man, and you gave a chuckle as if, of course, it's a meme now, right? Florida man.
Well, yeah, it is. This guy was Florida resident Michael Burdick. Okay. That came up with Hunt for Bambi. But yes, it is a meme. Florida man does this. Florida man does that.
Well, I came across the Florida man, and I could not believe it. I could not believe it. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. But they're the outliers. They're not but regardless of that, I mean, we're talking about millions and millions of people, but regardless of that, you have to have some, weird things. And we have plenty. A guy, I won't even say the word, I'll change it up, but you'll get it because it's just so nasty. It is so nasty. So a guy decided somewhere in a rural town in Florida, decided to put, or adjacent to a bigger populated area, but slash, just slightly outside of town, decided to put on the back of his pickup, on the back window, the word, I like to eat butt, in big letters.
Okay.
Or no, I eat butt. In big letters. And there's this big old good old boy driving around town with that sign, and a cop stopped him because of I guess profanity or I don't know what the word would be,
Obscenity or something like
obscenity
that.
and
But
stuff,
yeah.
and took his butt to jail. He said, "If you take it down now, we won't take your butt to jail." And he says, "No, man, freedom of speech and this and that." And um, the cop called his supervisor and told him this guy, and it was recorded on cam,
Mhm.
so you could hear the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's so, I mean, when there's things like, people shootouts and like drug busts or whatever, compared to this, it just looked so silly. And but at the same time, it's so inappropriate. But
I,
what
I get it.
but at the same time, well, anyway, so he says to his supervisor, he says he's got a sign he's got a decal on the back of his window that says blah blah blah, and you could hear the supervisor say, "Tell him to take it down or take his beep to jail."
Mhm.
And they took his beep to jail, and basically he's suing now
Mhm.
the the authorities
Mhm.
because it's a freedom of speech thing, and
Right.
the lawyer is saying, "Listen, it's up to you to what you see in the street to pay attention to or not. And if kids are around, it's up to you to take your kids whichever way you. It's not up to the individual's free speech to control it when it's words." And so that's the argument they're trying to make. I know that it's rude and
Uh-huh.
it's disgusting. I mean,
Yeah,
who
it is.
cares what you like or don't like and stuff? But with that said, I would be the last one to punish the guy for, as long as he's not, the typical crying,
Yeah.
fire in a crowded. As long as it's not endangering people, I mean, you could make the argument psychologically, but come on, with all the stuff we got. So I would be the last guy to, even though I think absolutely it's disgusting.
Well, I'm probably going to freak you out just a little bit here when I say I'm on the guy's side.
I wouldn't have doubted that.
There is something we've got to get used to, and something we need to. Again, I sound like the old man. Well, I am the old man, so it's acceptable. We don't teach about freedom of speech anymore. See, the thing that people don't seem to remember is speech you agree with or speech you like doesn't need to be protected. It's the repugnant stuff. It's the stuff that you don't like. It's the stuff that you disagree with. That needs to be protected.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Because whatever idea or thought or notion you have, there is somebody out there that disagrees with you. But everybody has the right to say it. Now, you don't have the right to be listened to. You don't have the right to be heard, but you have the right to say that. And he has
yeah,
the right to put that up in the back window. I may not like it. I may not agree with it, but that's my problem. He has the right to say it.
yeah.
And we get this complex of, yeah, but there's going to be kids seeing it. Don't even try that with me. You watch TV in your home, you listen to music in your home, you yourself have said worse things. Don't even try that with me. We don't need a double standard. One standard will do nicely. Free speech is sacrosanct, and that's it. Now, you're right. That doesn't include the right to scream fire in a crowded theater or endanger people with
Yeah.
your speech, but that endangers no one. Yes, it's disgusting, it's repugnant, but he has the right to say it.
Right. It's on him to be possibly ostracized by a slew of people and given negative
Oh yeah.
feedback.
Oh
That's all on him.
oh yeah. He has the
Yeah.
right to say it, but he also has the responsibility of accepting the consequences. And you're right. There are going to be people calling him out on it, but he has the right to say it. It's
I mean,
nobody's place to tell him he can't. See, this fight was fought back in the 60s because I remember guys like Lenny Bruce and even George Carlin going to jail for dropping the F bomb on stage on private property at a performance people paid to go see. So it wasn't like they didn't know what they were getting.
yeah.
But somebody in some town Somebody in some town decided that was obscene. Well, obscenity is and offense are subjective things. But how do you make something offensive an offense? It's subjective. What's offensive to you might not be offensive to me, and what's offensive to me might not be offensive to you.
It's an internal dialogue that you as an individual have had with
Mm-hmm.
yourself, due to your rearing, and your conclusions. But whatever happens in your brain, like you said, is not what's happening in somebody else's brain.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, there might be similar. We might agree on
Right,
something as we exchange ideas,
right.
but you can't make a certain category law for
Mm-hmm.
every. It's a complicated thing, but people have to learn
I,
that you're saying.
I don't think it's all that complicated. I really don't. I don't think it's all that complex. They have the right to say it. It doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have now, but you do have responsibilities there. If it's libelous, slanderous, if it's destructive, I mean, you're putting people in danger. You have the right to go out where people are cliff diving and yell jump 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 all day long, but you don't have the right to stand at the base of a building with some guy on the ledge and yell jump 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 jump. You're inciting somebody to harm themselves. There are reasonable restrictions that can be placed, but they're restrictions that the average person would agree is common sense. But if somebody wants to stand up and say the moon's made of blue cheese, they have the right to do it. It doesn't have to be true. You can say basically anything. I firmly believe, and this might sound a little bit anarchist to say, but I do believe we basically only have one right as human beings, and that is to do whatever we want. But along with that comes one responsibility, and that is face the consequences. You know?
Yeah, you could be a serial killer
Mm-hmm.
because, in truth, if you were so inclined, nothing's stopping you until you get stopped.
Right.
You have to face the consequences,
Sure.
of whatever. I know that's a extreme
Not
scenario, but you get the
not
point.
not really. I mean, if you wanna stop on the green light and go on the red light and close your eyes and take your chances on the yellow light, that's up to you. But there will be consequences, and it's not the traffic light fault. It's your fault.
Right.
And
No,
you're going to be held accountable.
you could make let's play the you could make a abstract thing that, because in the history of mankind and the color green back in ancient Egypt, you could try to work around the whole thing. But the truth is that we're in a situation where there's certain
Right.
norms, and
Hmm.
if you decide, because you're free to decide, you have free will to decide as far as we know,
Hmm.
and you do that, there are consequences
Exactly.
and everything. And
And it's nobody's fault but your own. And again, we're
um
down to self reliance. We do have to have laws. We do have to have more or less a contractual agreement between us as civilized human beings that certain things are good and certain things are bad. We have all agreed stop on the red light, go on the green light, and stop if you can safely on the yellow light.
yeah.
We've all agreed that. We all know that. And we all understand it. The important part of that is not so much the system. The important part of that is that there is a system and everybody knows it and they agree to it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what makes the system work. And 99% of civilized people know what to do and do the right thing. Yeah, there's always going to be that one guy who hits the gas a little bit and goes through the yellow. And there's always going to be that person who doesn't see the red or who's a little bit late stepping on the gas when the light goes green and the dude behind them honks. I mean, that people are people. But we all agree that there's a system and we all agree to use the system.
By the way, I've been both those people. I've been the person honking for the guy to hurry up, and I've
Mhm.
been the guy being honked at to get going. I've been both in different
Oh, yeah,
situations,
me too.
which shows that, because we do fluctuate. It's not like we're perfectly there's so many variables in our day to day, so
Mhm.
it's all meant to keep it sort of working more or
Yeah.
less. But we're humans too, so there should you should so there should be things like, oh, you didn't cross the intersection in time, so all the cars, so we're gonna fine you, and beat you over the head with a dull freaking bag of rocks. There shouldn't be disproportionate punishments for certain things
Sure.
either, and that's something we're always also dealing with in society as
Mhm.
well.
Well, we also have unwritten things that we do. And I don't know if this is a social contract or what, but since we're talking about, driving and red lights and this, that, and or I am anyway,
Yeah.
we all agree that 3 cars turn left when the light turns yellow. You've
Right.
got an uncontrolled intersection, it's got the red but there's no dedicated left turn signal. And when the light goes green, you get out in the intersection and you wait. We all agree that when that light turns yellow, the people coming straight ahead stop and the 3 cars in the intersection go. No, if the last one gets through and the light happens to be red, nobody's going to get a ticket for that because you were out there on the yellow. We agree to that. And there's not in any, there's no written law. There's nothing about it. We just agree that that's what we're going to do.
There's local things like, so over here we do have a situation where I'm not sure that it happens everywhere in the country, but I'm sure that it might happen in other places in the country, or maybe everywhere, I don't know. But when you're making a left turn,
Yeah.
or a right turn for that matter, the proper thing to do while in traffic, mind you, you're in traffic with other people, and so there's certain things. The proper thing to do is to turn from the left lane into the left lane, as opposed to turning to the left lane into the middle lane or the far right lane as you're making that turn and going on about you're cutting lanes as you turn, but you're taking the whole, you're supposed to go from the left to the left and then indicator and work your way as to give people. Well, in Miami, that's been tossed out the door to the point where, for the most part, people don't even, you can have cops around, and I mostly do it. Every now and then I don't, because it's such a tradition here, but I do it because it's the right thing to do, and I want to stay right inside the bounds of what it is. But people just take the whole 3 lanes and they go for it, and you could have police around; they don't even bother anymore.
Yeah,
And
I do
they
it too.
do it.
I do it too. I'm the only one on the road. I'm the only one turning. I've got the left arrow. I'm turning. There's 3 lanes there for me to choose from. I'm choosing the one I want to choose.
It's
If I have
easier,
to
right?
make a quick right turn into a parking lot, I'm going to go for the right lane. If I know the left lane up ahead branches off and gets on the expressway, I'm going to go for the middle lane.
Yeah.
I'll choose whatever. I'm the only one there. There's no other cars.
I do that though when I have to get into a certain gas station, because it's
Mhm.
the only way. The only other
Yeah.
way would be for me to go all the way down the road, make a U-E. By the
Mhm.
way, the first U-E that you could possibly make, it has you could do it, right? But
Yeah.
it's got a sign, don't do a U-E here.
Yeah.
And so you have to keep going like
Well,
far and then turn and then come in and then it's a nightmare. So that happens a lot here, and so people just do what the hell they want. But there is a thing
yeah.
called traffic, and other cars are around you, so it
Sure.
depends on how busy the
Yeah.
scenario.
Well, it also depends on the intersection, because there's some intersections here that are 2 or 3 lanes that are left turn lanes. And so if you're in the far left, you have to get into the left lane because there's a car next to you turning as well, and he's going for the middle. And he's got to go for the middle because there's a car over on the right that's going to turn as well, and he's going for the right lane.
Yeah.
So, it just depends on the intersection too.
This isn't.
But you said something weird just a second. Weird to me anyway, because it's different there than it is here. There, they put up a sign that says no U-turn when you can't make a U-turn, right? But
What,
every
here?
other, yeah, right? Is that
No,
right?
it says no U-turn.
Right, that's what I mean. They
Yeah.
put up that sign in places where you can't make a U-turn.
Right.
But anywhere else, if that sign isn't there, you can make a U-turn there, right?
Right.
Here, it's just the opposite. Here in Oregon, it's the only state I've seen this way. Here, You can't make a U-turn at any intersection unless the sign says you can. There's a sign that says U-turn okay. If that sign is not there, you cannot legally make a U-turn there.
Is that sign there on every
Nope,
intersection?
it's not on every intersection. There are some intersections where you shouldn't be making a U-turn. It's just in a bad place.
Okay,
But
because over here in intersections, I
mhm,
mean, you've gone far enough,
mhm.
you're gonna have to go all the way to downtown Miami to turn around.
Yeah,
And so at intersections,
well,
you can make it, but you got to be careful because I'm not clear exactly. I prefer not to do it at intersections
mhm.
because there's something that doesn't sound right about that, but people do it here.
San Francisco is the king. It is the capital of no left turn signs. The whole town basically you can't turn left. There's a few intersections where you can, but signs all over the place. No left turn. You become the king of the 3 right turn left. You'll make a
Wow.
right turn, go around the block, make another right turn, make another right turn, and go straight across. That's the, 2 wrongs don't make a right, but 3 rights make a left.
They should have their reason for it because of how the
They,
town's laid out.
they do. It is the way the town's laid out. The streets are pretty narrow, and there's just no room for a left turn there. But that doesn't stop tourists from doing it, and that
They're not
doesn't
used
stop
to
the
it.
cops from giving them a ticket.
Yeah.
But I mean, signs all over the place. No left turn, no left turn. They do it anyway, and they get ticketed. So
It's it's a tough way. When I was out in the middle of nowhere in middle America, Southwest,
mhm,
who knows where in Arizona or Texas, or just out in the desert, I was driving towards Miami and there's nothing but frickin' desert and sand and no cars,
mhm.
nothing. And I was going, there was a down thing, and on the down thing, I coasted it, let it, and it sped up.
Uh,
And when I come down, just a little bit further, I see woo, and I'm like, and I mean, I've been living in California for a while, and so I'm in the big city, but now I'm in the desert, and I'm like, woo, I'm looking left and right. I'm like, and sure enough, and the guy was all serious and stuff, and yeah. And you could pay this, or you can fight it if you like, and this and that. And I'm looking at the guy. I didn't even argue. Like, there's no reason to argue. I'm just looking at him like, what the hell?
yeah.
It's, to me, that is ridiculous. But
Out on the interstate in those stretches, it's like a game. It really is. It's like
yeah,
a game. The cops will hide someplace and get anybody for 4 miles an hour over the speed limit or more.
yeah,
But some of these places are pretty rural. That's their revenue. You know, I mean, it's craziness, but it is. It's like a game. It's like, let's see who can write the most tickets out on the interstate today. But
it's
you know,
it's
you
well,
stay a few miles an hour around the speed limit. You're generally speaking good. But I find it's out there on those states like you're talking about, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, not so much Louisiana or Oklahoma. A little bit in Oklahoma. And down south, oh my gosh, Georgia was crazy for that. Georgia and South Carolina cops have no sense of humor whatsoever. It's
yeah.
just yes, sir, no, sir. I mean, mirrored aviator sunglasses with mirror on the inside, too. They are really something. But no sense of humor.
It's insane, dude. So like, in a long stretch of highway
Mhm.
with no one on it in the desert,
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know. I found it astonishing, but I did want to say there's another. I don't know if it's a Florida man, but it's related because of an
Mhm.
officer stop, a traffic stop. It could have been Florida man, but it was shocking. So there's this guy that he's an old guy, retired, pillar of the community.
Yeah.
Like he takes the shirt off his back to help. He's got a tradition of that, and he has one weakness.
What's that?
Well, he loves to go early to the Krispy Kreme and purchase the fresh Krispy Kreme and eat it in his car. So he does have negative things about him. But other than that, the guy helps the community. Just a bunch of stuff. Retired guy.
How is that a negative thing? He wants to go to Krispy Kreme when they're fresh and hot and get the donuts and sit in his car and eat donuts. That
So
don't hurt nobody.
So here's, but oh, are you sure about that?
That in and of itself, there's not a thing wrong with it.
Right. Well, a cop that stopped him didn't think so because he saw crumbs on the floor and thought that it was some sort of PCP or some sort of like drug.
Please.
He collected it in a little bag, arrested him, took him to jail. The man says, "No, sir, look, I've got donuts here and this and that." And he says, "That's residue from this and that." They arrested him, took him to jail. It was an outrage and this and that. And I don't know how long he was there. They gave him his call, this and that. And eventually they did the lab thing on it. And they said, "Yeah, that's confection sugar and icing." and so the cop, here's the kicker. The cop continued to deny that it was anything other than what he said it was. And that is an aspect of the human condition, that in a position of power, you could do a lot of harm to someone and you just go hog wild through the front door, into the parking lot and race with it. Never looking back to think, did I make an error or did I check all the facts?
Well, and that's what we have attorneys for, and that's why we have disciplinary hearings.
Actions, yeah.
And that's why you have recourse. But nobody got shot. Nobody ended up in the hospital. The guy did go to jail, and I bet you the lawyers are lining up to take that case.
So the Krispy Kreme, even something as benign as Krispy Kreme.
Why can't something like that happen to me, man? Why can't something like that happen to me?
Are you thinking that's like the lottery, winning the lottery?
More or less. More or less.
Yeah. And the guy said that he wasn't, that he would not press charges because it was an honest mistake. However, he felt he was treated bad. He's a pillar of the community.
That doesn't matter. See, that the guy's going to continue to do that if he doesn't face a consequence.
But you see what I'm saying, though?
I do.
It's a case of you have a person that really doesn't want to, where many people would take advantage full throttle. You have a guy that's actually, retiree. He's not.
I don't see it as taking advantage. I don't see it as taking advantage. What I see it as is accountability.
No, I know. I know, but
people make mistakes. And if he would have said, "You know what? I was convinced that this was cocaine or whatever, but it turns out it wasn't. My apologies." But he's sticking by the story. He's sticking to his guns.
If you have a box of so I get
that's the kind of ego you don't want on the police force with a badge.
Right. You don't want that. You want people that are there to uphold the law and protect, and you don't want that.
And the only way anything's going to happen is if it's pushed.
Yeah.
You don't demand he's fired. You just sue. And that's going to take care of the situation. He's going to get his wrist slapped. He may lose his job. He may end up in some other jurisdiction somewhere else. He may be in a mall riding a Segway. You never know what's going to happen. But there has to be a consequence.
Great.
People get away with bad behavior all the time because other people don't want to fight it.
Great. Now we have a mall rat, and he's getting arrested because he has a what do you call those buns?
What has to happen is he gets held until the real cops show up, but he ain't walking around with a gun.
So this guy in his new job is running up and down the mall, and he sees a guy with a Cinnabon, and he says, "That's got to be crack. Put the crack down." Hey, sir, doesn't it look like a Cinnabon?
In a manner of speaking, they are crack, but
see, Judge. In
nobody
reality,
can eat just one.
Judge, in reality, I was completely vindicated because it does affect people like crack. I mean, it's it's such a ridiculous thing.
I get you.
I totally. So, I thought it was a crazy thing. I don't know if it was Florida, but there you go.
But even then, it's kind of a weird thing, whether it's this whole Florida guy thing. Florida man does this, Florida man does that. A few weird things happened in Florida, but it's just like anything else. Now people are looking at Florida, so they're going to notice everything, but they're not noticing the weird stuff going around in Wyoming, Colorado, Tennessee, or Arkansas. You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
if they focused on California, oh my God, there's enough goofy stuff going on in California to last them forever. They would forget Florida existed. But since a couple of weird things happen in Florida, they're watching Florida now. And anything weird that happens
gets blamed on
Florida. You know.
Well, it also, that just reminds me of what we were talking about earlier, where you have access to news and information, and the Florida man is a situation where it's done that, right? It's become a meme of its own.
Right.
But before, we were so localized, now the outrage is if somebody does, so you have all sorts of people with certain traditions all across the country that are different and that would not be suited. You can't take people, let's say in somewhere in the South, I don't know, let's say Georgia somewhere, and transplant them here in Miami, let's say, and expect people to not be shocked by their habits and this and that, and vice versa, and so on and so forth.
Sure.
When we see things online that occur in another neighborhood and this and that, or certain attitudes or beliefs or this or that, the outrage is from one side of the planet to the next, and people are voting with their little buttons and commenting, and everybody wants to, invite force their thing onto them. And because of that, things get escalated in a crazy, unrealistic way nowadays, as opposed to back then. Sure, it's always happened, but because we're so interconnected now, I find it something very strange. You have to give some leeway to people and their custom. Like,
sure,
there's the Church of whatever that goes and protests all over the place. I find it atrocious. Those people that protest military, it's atrocious. They have or like the David Koresh people, or like, and there's problems with that too. But like, the whole world isn't that. These are localized things. It's not even part of us. Like, let's say here in Miami, it's got its own things and stuff. But in there, people are making judgment calls, which is their right to do. But it creates this thing where everybody's on edge, are making judgment calls for things all across the country with varying, and the world with varying levels of knowledge of the issue and varying levels of innate, I guess you'd call, information processing. And so it becomes this huge mess where everybody's like divided into different categories, and so you're always going to have that. But I think that it's like a augmentation of people's natural, ways of being.
If you're getting your news from social media, that's part of the problem. I don't believe.
Where else would you get it from?
Where else would I get it from? How about a legitimate news source, and more than one?
Wait a second.
Get it from more than one.
But wait a second. What do you mean? Legitimate.
Well, what I mean by is look at the various news services, more than one. Look at 2 or 3 of them and see what all they're saying. Don't just take the headline, because there's a lot of nuance in there. Headlines are made for a reason. There's a specific reason, down to the font they use.
Yeah.
There's a specific reason for every headline.
Yeah.
And if that's all you're getting is that headline, and you're not reading further into the story, you're only getting, no matter who you get it from, you're only getting what they want to tell you.
Yeah.
So my point is, if your only source of news is social media, if all you're reading is the little things people are posting on Facebook, you're not getting the news. You're getting somebody's opinion.
Yeah.
And that's a dangerous thing. But again, we like that little moment of outrage. I can't believe they did this. Well, they didn't. You didn't read the story.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's a big difference. Something can sound very reasonable to you, because it scratches your itch as towards which way you you lean on any particular issue or topic, and so you're quite ready to accept a thing. But
especially if you agree with it. If it
right,
fits the narrative you already have in your mind,
yeah,
then it's the aha moment.
yeah,
Well, I don't play that game anymore.
yeah. I've always been suspicious of everything, as you know, and I've always although I have my preferences and I know that to be true,
Okay.
but I've always felt that they're out for a manipulation. But not only that, not only that, just across the board, everything. And so I'm always so I've always, but I do have my preferences. So I find
Sure.
myself in certain scenarios seeing issues with my preferred
Sure. We all have a bias.
information. Right. So I see issues with that preferred, but I will excuse it
Mhm.
because the long-term greater goal I'm assuming I want to aim towards and that I'd want to aim towards it is in my favor, but I'll take note of these issues that pop up. So I even see it when I'm not all the time because we're built
Mhm.
for confirmation bias, but
Sure.
I will see it. It's not like so it could be a certain news source and I look at it and I'm like, well, damn, I agree with this whole, but you have to be very careful and stuff. And
Yeah.
again, it's unfortunate, but not everybody thinks the same, and
No.
it's all dynamic, and
Right. Right. Now,
so.
you are of an age, and everything you just said, it just reminded me of something. And I'm going to try to make this as short as can because we're getting close to the top of the, or the bottom of the hour, rather. But what you have said has kind of made me think of something. We are both of an age. I'm 60, you're younger. But if you could go back to your 15-year-old self and give your 15-year-old self some advice, what would it be?
um
About anything, worldview. um don't get your driver's license when you're 16, whether you're 18, whatever, don't date that girl, or just anything. If you were going to go back and talk to your 15-year-old self, what would it be?
I guess I would say don't worry about the waves crashing, or in other words, don't worry about the exterior influences or agents all around you, because they're always going to be there. Just keep an eye out. I was even back then quite, although I couldn't process it, I was on my way to be who I am now.
All right.
And who I
That's
am
understandable.
now, yeah, who I am now is many things, but I'm really an observer.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean I'm right. And that's another thing I always, as you know, always mention, not to free myself of guilt or culpability, but to reinitiate that understanding in myself, and sure in others, to have them understand, the people around me, that look, I have a point of view. I'm very passionate about it. I could be wrong, so understand. I'm not trying to tell you,
Mhm.
and so I have that attitude. So I know that I'm passionate, and I know that I could be wrong. I'm gonna push it to see how far it goes, not because I want it stubbornly, but because I want to see where the weakness is. It's really how I operate,
Uh-huh.
and I do it because I want to know the truth of the thing, even if it bothers me.
Right.
And many times, so I would tell my younger me to that. I would tell to observe, which I did anyhow, but and not to worry as much. Also,
Okay.
not to
Okay.
worry as much. Although that I have not learned. I
Yeah.
know it's the truth, but I've not learned it, and I don't think human beings are capable. Maybe they are. I don't know. I've tried not
Hmm.
to worry as much because at the end of the day, what does it matter? It really doesn't. It matters at the moment. Um, so those are the things I'd say. It's
Okay.
just That's right now. That's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
Okay. Okay. With
What would
me,
you?
if I could go talk to my 15-year-old self again, I'd say two things: be skeptical and be hard on your own opinions. Be skeptical. I don't exactly mean question everything, but be skeptical. Don't be willing to take everything you hear as gospel. Be skeptical, do your own research, do your own due diligence. It's real easy to get told something you want to hear and you think that that's the right way, the way things are. And it's a real hard lesson when you find out later on that that's not how things are at all and that you've been going down the wrong path. So be skeptical. And the other one is be hard on your own opinions. Um, so many of my opinions have had to change over the years because I just knew it was A, B, and C when it was actually 4, 5, and 6. Just completely and totally different. Just be hard on your opinions, identify your biases, and try to keep them out of the discussion. Take your opinions out, throw them over the clothesline, smack them around with a baseball bat, knock the dust out of them. Just inspect your opinions, examine them, and find out why you think that way. You know, I've got lots of opinions on a lot of things. Problem is, most of them suck. But,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, just it's not so much about being right as it is about being decent. And you don't have to call everybody on everything. Just be a nicer person, I guess. So
Um, I want to, and I'm sorry I have to do this, but um, I want to. I don't want to say amend, but I want to tag something that's actually more important, actually,
okay.
because this is a actual very. It's a very profound question. I would also tell my younger me to appreciate and enjoy more my family. The moments with my mother, um, which since they were happening at the time, they were just me at the time, and there's no other way I could have been. But if I knew then what I know now,
Sure.
I would have embraced more my folks, had even more sit downs and chats with my grandparents, um, taken it in more, and so love your family.
Yeah.
So to me,
That's all you've got.
love your family, and if you can't love the one, how's the song?
If
And
you
if you
can't
can't,
be with the one you love the one you with.
right? So and if you can't be with your family and love your family, love the ones that you're with.
That's it.
So that I wanted to amend that.
Yeah. Well, it all works in. At the end of the day, I think it's all about decency. I think it's all about civility and just trying to get along. I don't mean, go along to get along. I mean, we're all here for a short time and it's a
Yeah,
short ride. There are no sequels that we know of. So why not just make it as pleasant as you can make it and get on with it and have fun? I mean, learn everything you can, read as much as you can, experience and have fun with it. But remember, at the end of the day, it's more or less meaningless because the world's going to continue to turn long after you're gone. So have fun with it.
yeah, I agree completely. I don't mean to be sappy about it,
Mhm.
but it's deserved. I think it's deserved, and I'd like to say that I appreciate you a
Mhm.
lot, just so that
Oh, thank you.
as a human being, as a thinker, as a person that's willing to get in the ring on any number of things, as a person that's willing to enjoy life and be silly as well, and be dynamic.
That's me.
And I just, I just do want to say that, and I'm not trying to put you in a certain position or anything like that. I do, and I have appreciated. I just want to say that, and my comfort level in being able to express myself with you on this podcast, and besides it, and there's others that I can mention as well, such as Harneo Media, which we'll get into. But so those are very important things to me. So I just want to acknowledge that.
Well, thank you. I do know that I appreciate you as well, and you're a good person to talk to about this kind of thing because you're genuinely interested. You come back with follow-up questions, and and I know I'm the crotchety old fart of this podcast, and I live up to that, and I consider it a badge of honor.
And I'm the vibrant. Am I the vibrant young youth?
Yes,
then?
You're the young whippersnapper who needs my knowledge. So sit there quietly now, young man, while I tip you off to my. That's not that way. I'm cynical, and I know it, and but I don't mean to preach or try to instruct. I just talk things through.
Yeah, I think that we're on the same page, and we come at things and we work it out and stuff. But another person that you might want to check out because of your self-interest, if you want a website and if you want to sell your products, but you want a more personalized service, something that is a one-on-one with a real human being, you should check out harneomedia.com and send a message out to Steve Nealon over at harneomedia.com. And he could get your website up and running. The prices are great. And he's got a long track list of great makers on YouTube and people really from all walks of life that go to him for service with websites and selling products and all sorts of things. So you might want to check that out. That's harneomedia.com. And we go live every Tuesday, and except today was Friday, or is Friday, but you don't need to know that. We go every Tuesday at 9:30 Eastern and 6:30 Pacific time here on YouTube, Trampled Underfoot Podcast on YouTube, as well as
our Facebook page. Head over to Facebook, look up at that search bar, type in Trampled Underfoot Podcast. That's us. If we talk about a video or talk about an album or a song or something like that, we'll post a link to it over there on Facebook so you can get your eyes on it. And it's just a great place to go check out some of our past episodes, our catalog of our audio, of the audio side of the podcast. It's all linked over there. Trampled Underfoot Podcast on Facebook. Give us a like, follow us, and everybody will be happy.
All right, folks. So we'll catch you next time here on Trampled Underfoot Podcast.com.
Peace. All right.
All right. Yeah, I didn't mean to go into that, but
that's cool.
When I'm thinking, and you made me think so the question you asked was a deep question, and I was gonna be, I don't want to say snarky, but I was gonna double down on my disdain for everything structured abusively, and then I said no, and I reflected on it, but by the time you were done with yours, my brain started building, and I said, I'm standing in front of Mark, well, virtually, and look what we're sharing. And then I thought of my family, beyond friends, you have family. And so it all sort of snowballed. And I said, I want to share that. So it's on the record and stuff. And so, but it can sound sappy, but
not at all. Not at all.
I mean, even Ringo, like the Beatles, Paul McCartney said, one time Ringo he quit, and we all were like, we went to him, and he's like, no, you guys don't need me anymore, and this and that. And, and Paul McCartney he's a very nice guy. And he said, and so we sent Ringo flowers and said, you know what, man, you're great. and you can see Ringo lit up and stuff. And he says, "We don't do that to our friends and loved ones much." Paul McCartney says,
Uh-huh.
and that's such a nice thing from a Beatle saying it back in the day.
Yeah.
So he's learned lessons
Well,
from way back, and so so whatever. I'm not I'm just saying. So
well, thanks for the sentiment, and the sentiment is shared. Believe me, you know. We met about what 3-4 years ago, something like that. We've been doing this for coming up on 3 years. In August will be 3 years, so we met about 5 years ago.
insane.
But become friends, virtual friends. We've never met face to face, but we got an entire continent between us. And I appreciate you putting me on the spot with asking questions, because you make me re-examine my thoughts. And that's why I said be hard on your own opinions, because it's never too late to rethink something. And you may believe something down to, every last fiber of your being, but always remember that there's that chance that you could be wrong.
Yeah.
You could just be full of it and stroking your own ego with your beliefs.
Yeah.
So I try now to identify my biases and think, do I think this way because of this? Is my opinion on Ford trucks based on my experience with a Ford truck, or is it based on all my friends driving Chevys?
Yeah.
So does this fit a preconceived notion of mine, or do I actually have all the facts? No, I don't have all the facts. So why do I have that opinion?
Now on the other flip side of that, and by the way, I agree, because I own a Ford, and
Mhm.
and anytime there's a conversation, I'll hear somebody say Ford suck, even though my car's falling apart. It's
Mhm.
falling apart after like 20 years of me driving it nonstop. I'll defend Ford, but I know it's a bias. It's like Ford,
Sure.
Chevy.
Well, you got one. So yeah, and I've never had a bad. I've owned several Fords. I've never had a bad experience with a Ford that wasn't of my own doing. So
Yeah.
I think they're all basically the same.
Yeah.
But
Well, there are Renaults.
yeah, well, yeah, that's true. One of the biggest pieces of trash I ever owned was a BMW. I mean,
Oh,
this thing
wow.
was so bad. It was so bad. I sold the stereo and told the guy he had to take the car with it. I says, "I'm selling you the stereo. You got to take the car with it."
Dude, let me just share this with you. It's very quick. My mom, she had such a heart, dude. And I'm not just saying that. You could ask people, and literally, she won a $5,000 lottery scratch off when it first came out here
Yeah.
in Florida back in the '80s, and she was so happy. She gave one. She bought two, and she came to my grandmother, Ramona,
Uh-huh.
and she said, "Here, pick which one." And my grandmother grabbed one, and she said, "This is the winner." And she scratched nothing. My mom scratched it off. She won $5,000 back then,
Uh-huh.
and she was so happy. And she went and talked to my dad and says, I want to get a brand new car. She had one of those gray station wagons, family ones.
Yeah.
And I want to get a car. And she says, okay, we'll go in this and that. But my dad had other ideas
Mhm.
of what a good car is. And my mom saw the cute Renault and bought it.
Uh-huh.
And that thing had so many issues for years. It was back and back, and and filling it with water, and it would steam, and what's the problem, and this and that. Man, I remember that, and yeah, it's incredible. So, anyways,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay, let's get into the comments here and see what we got going on. Jim Dockrell says, saying you can't find employees because they make more unemployment is a lousy way to admit you pay crap wages. Dude, when McDonald's has a sign out front that says starting wage is $17 an hour, that's not crap wages. Paying people $20 an hour to sit on unemployment, that's the problem. That's the problem. Okay.
$17 an hour for McDonald's. Is that nationwide?
That's what the sign says out here up front.
Because, dude, that's insane.
Yeah.
But do
17
they?
bucks an hour for McDonald's.
But do they
But
give you full time?
I don't know. I never got that far. I don't want a job, so I never investigated it.
No, I'm
But I
saying.
know, but for 17 bucks an hour, you can be working at McDonald's. But with all of the COVID bonuses and
Right.
extensions and
Yeah.
everything else, people are getting 20 bucks an hour to be on unemployment.
Yeah.
So where's the incentive to go to work? It's not that they're paying crap wages. It's just that the state is bonusing people more to not go under the
Yeah.
guise of I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Yeah.
So, and besides, let's say it like it is. McDonald's is not supposed to be a career unless you get up into management and you get off of the, you're not working the drive-through or the French fry basket anymore. That's not supposed to be a career. That's supposed to be a first job to get you your pocket money for going out and doing your thing and playing around with and learning skills, learning discipline. That's supposed to be a first job. You're not supposed to try to support a family on what you're making at McDonald's.
Yeah. I that was my first job back in, I don't remember, but like late 80s. That was my first job. After school, I go straight to McDonald's walking, and I did learn a lot. And then there was an opening for Arby's, and I moved up a slot and got a little bit more pay in Arby's. And it was all crap, but you know what I'm saying.
But that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to work your way up. All those managers came from somewhere.
Yeah.
They were all running the fry basket and working the drive-through at one time. Nobody starts as a manager. Nobody.
Hey, I can tell you this much. McDonald's back then, they would let you after closing, anything they'd throw out, they'd let you carry in little bags. I can tell you that the food after it gets it's cold, it's never really that great, and you're just eating like to fill your stomach. But Arby's, even working there and after and before and always, I felt this pleasure eating the roast beefs. It was so good. It's always good. It doesn't. You can work there, at least me, and I didn't get tired of it, dude. I loved it.
I think if you were to, and I've said this before, and in fact, Linda and I had this discussion a couple of days ago when we were driving somewhere. If I had to be pushed, my absolute favorite fast food joint would have to be Arby's.
Yeah. Or Long John Silver's for me as well.
I'm kind of a snob when it comes to seafood, and I'm not much for Long John Silver's. I'd rather go someplace where it's better seafood.
Dude,
I'm kind of a snob when it comes to it.
Dude, their beer batter or whatever it is, with that, I know the fish is whatever it is, but and then the little dipping thing with the what do you call it, the tartar, and then the hush puppies and your little coleslaw, and just that little thing. It's like selfish enjoyment, and I love it, dude.
I'd rather go to the wharf or something like that and get good fish and chips.
Yeah,
but or sea scallops or something like that. I'll tear up some seafood. I will eat my weight in seafood. I love it.
It's good stuff.
I just, I'm a little bit more picky. Let's see here. Cruising down the Steve C confirmed Kmart used to have the blue light specials. Welcome aboard, Steve C. Just my dog says some people use freedom of speech argument to protect some dangerous lies. My answer to that is, so what? So what? Freedom of speech is sacrosanct. That's it. And if they're lying to you, so what? That's where I get into self-reliance. It's up to you to check it out. I can say anything. I can say that the Russians are getting ready to invade tomorrow. Everybody hunker down, jump into the bunkers. It's go time.
Yeah.
Check it out yourself.
So I would think also in agreement with that, and the reason is because you're going to always have to have someone to relegate, and sort of sift through what is and what isn't if you're going to try to control speech. It is a dirty and unsavory thing to have someone spewing total fake lies across the airwaves, whatever that means today. The electronic the cables and copper or satellite dishes, but we have to. If we want ourselves to be free to speak and stuff, we have to have leeway with what other people, even if we don't agree, and even if we know it's an outright, we should just accept, or we can delve into the conversation, but we should just allow for other people to intelligently sift out the trash and what's right and what's wrong on their own, and let the cards fall on the table as they may, because anything other than that requires some sort of control on speech, which is not favorable.
Well, and that is why I say you have to do your due diligence,
Correct.
because it's one thing you can basically say anything you want unless it's going to put somebody in danger. If it's an incitement to violence, if it's an incitement for somebody to do self-harm or to harm somebody else, then that is different. That's not protected free speech. But I mean, we had this argument in the 60s and 70s. The American Nazi Party and the Ku Klux Klan went to the Supreme Court, and it was confirmed they have the right to have their little protest marches and to stand up in front of the city hall and give their little speeches, but they don't have the right to be listened to or heard. You are free to turn the other cheek and walk away. You don't have to stand there and listen to it, but
So,
they have the right to stand there and say it. And
so,
that was upheld from the Supreme Court.
so I agree completely with that.
Mhm.
Even though you would think that the Ku Klux Klan is such an unsavory,
I agree.
um, uh, organization or whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
Um, however, you could take them, you could take any other group, and it's easy to name them because they're such the extreme position. But um, if they can do it to that, because here's the thing: they themselves lock themselves off from the rest of the population and public with what they say,
Hmm.
because by sheer votes of just general consensus,
Hmm.
people do not give them ground,
Right.
because it's so outlandish. There are
Right.
people that will. They may. You can have people that agree on one little area or another that conflict with other things. So it's dynamic, but they're in the position of where they are at because
Hmm.
people don't favor them,
Right.
compared to, I don't know, ice cream on Sunday.
Right.
It's just so there is a organic self censoring. They only have a voice as far as they can bullhorn,
Right.
and people shut them down because they're unsavory. So
And
and that happens
right.
with other groups.
And that happens with all of these groups, because when people hear what you are saying, they're making up their mind about you. They say they're doing this for free speech. What it is it's an attempt at recruitment. But what they're doing is they're driving people away. That's why they don't do it anymore. They drove more and more people away from their organizations to the point to where they just about didn't exist anymore, and then realized that they were shooting themselves in the foot. And so they quit going public and went private, and they recruit one-on-one now. That to me is more dangerous than anything they would have said out in front of the city hall.
Yeah,
Because when you're screaming something through a bullhorn, everybody hears your crap. But if you're sitting talking to some dude in a tavern, maybe the few people around you are hearing it, and a certain percentage of them might agree, where they wouldn't agree with you out in public. To me, that's
right.
more dangerous than any kind of speech that they could have made in front of the courthouse.
Yeah, yeah. And there's many groups that have different agendas, that are similar in that. they have those characteristics of the KKK with in other genres and in other groups of people and so on that are just as dirty, in my opinion, ignorant, in my opinion, but nothing. Let people see what it is,
Well,
and they'll obviously they're not very popular.
a lot of
Generally
people are
speaking.
too willing to put it down to ignorance, and I don't mean you, but a lot of people are too willing to give the benefit of the doubt. And I'm one of those people usually. But we also have to remember that there are just some evil people out there. There's just some bad people. And they search out these groups to be a part of them. So we can't just say that, well, they're in the KKK because they're just a bunch of ignorant people. Well, maybe some of them are. But I'm willing to bet you an equal number are just bad people.
Okay, I'd have to agree with that. So you have to account for all of those things. So you have to account for there's people that are just bad people that are what is it? Psychopathic.
Psychotic, sociopathic, or just mean, or just bad people. I mean,
there's people that are looking for that because they want to get their thrill, whatever their brain gets high on. There's people that because of circumstances, and there's stories out there I've sat and watched, and there's a lot of people that are impoverished. And they're not the most cultured people in certain areas necessarily. And why would they be? They live where they live, and they get recruited and they feel included. And, so there's all these different reasons why people go into something like that. I mean, for goodness sakes, it could be that. You could take a person and that's predisposed and put them in I hate to say, let's look for something, a certain religion. And they get recruited and they become like a militant religious whatever. And it's humans are always looking for inclusion, and
yes, it's that tribal thing. I'm no longer alone. I'm no longer Jethro in the trailer park. I'm a part of something. I'm a part of something that's bigger than me. I'm included. So it's all okay.
Yeah.
It never mind what they say, never mind what they stand for, never mind what they do. Oh, you don't know these guys. These are a bunch of great guys. They'll go out duck hunting with me, and we go to the tavern and have a beer. Well, when he wasn't eating people, I understand Jeffrey Dahmer was just a charming individual.
Right.
There are just some bad people out there, man.
There are people
that
are sick. Yeah,
so,
those people are sick. There are people that are sick out there.
Oh yeah.
And some of them don't go into groups. Some of them are individuals.
Yeah.
Like some of them will want to do it, like the Jeffrey, like all these people, they want to do it alone. So that's another level of insanity. Well, whatever. So yeah.
Just to steal a line from one of my favorite comedians, Dennis Miller. He said, you can't save everybody, folks. All you can do is hope you don't live next door to them when they go off.
Yeah. Well, that's
the Jim Dockrell. We were talking about traffic earlier. He says it's different here too. Stop on the yellow unless it's unsafe to do so, or get a ticket. Yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be here too. But about the only time that they will actually pop you and give you a ticket is if you speed up to make the yellow. If you are just cruising on through and you may or may not have had time to stop safely, then they'll leave you be. In fact, I have seen cops give people tickets who did stop on the yellow, but they locked up their brakes to stop. They did a panic stop. I've seen cops give people tickets for that because that's unsafe.
Yeah.
But
it's all unsafe.
Because, when you lock up your brakes, you could drift in any direction.
Yeah. I'm just saying that the act of going outside your door, Frodo Baggins.
Yep. Frodo Baggins. Yep. It is. You're absolutely right. And staying indoors isn't all that safe either.
Hey man, watch out. That's let me address this. My dog.
Okay.
With the inciting of violence and stuff, I agree. but it has to be that, okay, so but they incite violence at their rallies. The core of their ideology is a violent one, so the KKK and Nazis shouldn't be able to do that. They do it all the time, they just don't say it out loud. They call it dog whistling. They just lie about their intent now. Okay, so and well, if nobody hears them, they won't know what groups to look for. Okay, so um if they so let me just say,
Yeah, go ahead. Go
um
ahead.
so
Because I
if
got
they
some things too.
so if they say things in the rally that incite violence, then that can be prosecuted. That's
On a
up to people,
on a
you
case by
know,
case basis, yes.
but it has to be everything on a case by case basis. You what you can't do, because you become like them,
Hmm.
is if you take the whole. So here's the thing: you can know something is wicked, evil, screwed up, whatever you want to call it, dangerous, adverse to society, adverse to individuals specifically, and you can identify an ideology.
Hmm.
You can write it down. You can write books about it. You can talk about it, and you can do that. But an ideology is not a crime.
Nope.
Words are not a crime. You can only get so you may and but what is a crime is if they act upon something
Right.
in an illegal fashion. But you can have your ideology, as insane as it might be to others, and rightly so in certain cases, and maybe not so rightly so in other cases. But the idea of thought um, policing, even at the expense and danger of let's say a group like the KKK, even at the danger of that spreading and all that, thought policing is adverse to our health as a society, Western society,
Right.
because we're and that can leapfrog. You can call the KKK bad because you think it's bad, which I agree, but you'll have another group of people that might have some power that might think that your speech or another group's speech is detrimental to their interests. And maybe it's not akin to like racism or this or that, but maybe it's akin to another thing where they want to dump. So people can manipulate using that as a tool when they're trying to say
Right.
thoughts can be. You can't control thoughts. They can be nasty. You cannot like them. You can only attack action.
That's right.
Only action.
That's right. That's exactly, and thank you. That's exactly where I was going to go. That they incite violence at their rallies. Maybe. I don't know. I haven't been to a KKK rally or a Nazi party rally. I've never been to one. So I don't know what they do. The core of their ideology is a violent one, maybe. But the core of a lot of ideologies is violence. They don't have the right to act on those violence, on those thoughts or those speeches, but they have the right to make those speeches.
Unfortunately,
Yeah. And we as a society have the right to ignore them and file them down in the bottom of the circular file cabinet where they belong.
or call them out,
Yeah.
or
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 call
do
them
or
out. Just, believe me, they are nothing compared to what they used to be because they have shot themselves in the foot by coming out and getting loud about it. They don't do that anymore. They just don't do that anymore. And there is some question as to whether or not they are actually organizations anymore, just simply because times have changed. People don't think that way for the most part. It's not acceptable. At one time, it was. In the I think it was 1911, 1912, there were 200,000 of them in full regalia marched down Pennsylvania Avenue, with Woodrow Wilson standing out there watching them.
yeah,
Just, but they don't have that kind of power anymore. They don't have that kind of appeal or attraction anymore. Their
yeah,
BS doesn't work anymore. So you laugh at them. You make them the butt of the joke. And they do go away. They
I
do
mean,
go away.
society in many ways has moved. Well, not in society has moved on in action as far as so people may think many things, and you may
Mhm.
have a slew of people that'll agree with certain points, not with others, and this and that. But as far as indeed, um, they're not very powerful. Maybe in their neighborhoods,
Mhm.
but um, and you probably maybe not in their neighborhoods, but in general, I don't think that it's human beings will self ostracize or will ostracize what
Yeah,
they don't agree with, and that's the democratic process. And but
yeah,
there's still going to be adverse. There's
sure.
always going to be adverse,
Yeah,
ideas out there that you don't like, and you just have
exactly.
to,
And
you know.
and and that's why I say and I defend their right to say what they want to say. I don't defend what they say, but I defend their ability to say so, because the minute you control one group and say you can't speak, you have just killed the First Amendment, because our Constitution, we have the God-given right to say whatever we want to say. And the Constitution protects that right. It doesn't limit us, it limits government. Government can't prosecute you for standing up in front of the courthouse and saying these bozos in here are a bunch of liars. If you start limiting what any group of people can or cannot say in public, you have just eliminated that right. You have eliminated that protection. You
and
know?
and 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 I know this is like leaving the area, but it's kind of as far as speech and this and that.
Mhm.
Politicians, there's no law or crime
Mhm.
for politicians to get up on a mic and completely lie their
Right.
butts off
Yeah.
to the American public.
Well,
They can totally do it. However, well, let me just say that the however part is that there are consequences to that.
now,
You know,
if they're in session in chambers, they can say anything they want. That's protected. It's part of the democratic process. They're arguing points back and forth. They're making speeches and they're doing that. We're talking about the House of Representatives on the floor of the House. They can say
mm-hmm.
what they want. Same thing with the senators on the floor of the Senate. Same in every state assembly. They can say what they want, and that's protected. They can't be prosecuted. They can lie about people. They can, you know, they can get downright malicious about it, but it's protected. If they go outside and they're having a press conference, now they fall under the same libel and slander laws as anybody else. But if
Yeah.
they're in session, it's protected. They can't be prosecuted for it.
However,
Now,
politicians can lie about what promises.
oh,
There's
they do
certain
it all the time. They do it
right.
all the time. We all
So,
know that.
so I'm not talking about things that are necessarily slanderous towards, but and they do it. They do that too, but in public, and they're open to a whole slew of different issues. But they lie all the time, and they get
Oh
away.
yeah.
And that's, to me, I don't want to say that that's the
Mm-hmm.
equivalent of what we were talking about before, but there's all sorts of things that are unsavory,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Yeah.
up to us as individuals to identify them. And you have to accept that there's people out there that will not get it and will fall for it, but there's also people out there that are doing their own sifting through.
Sure.
And it just, look, this whole thing that we call society is a messy and dangerous and dirty thing.
Mm-hmm.
And but
But
we have to allow for rules across the board
sure.
that we can think, we can
Mm-hmm.
speak, we can
Mm-hmm.
practice, as long as we don't hurt
Mm-hmm.
the person to our left or right,
Mm-hmm.
um, and
Or
damage them
or incite others to do it.
or incite others to
Um,
do it.
just my dog says I agree in principle, but in practice we can make exceptions to prove the rule. Also, they do organize. I can send plenty of things. Yeah, if they act, that's a different subject entirely. But they can say whatever they want. That's my point. If they act, that's something different. And we as a society got to quit, now for lack of a better term, pussyfooting around and quit letting them get away with it. They've got to face accountability. And if that means rounding every ding dong one of them up in mid protest and taking them all down and booking them separately, then so be it. We got to quit this. Oh no, stand back and just observe and let them burn the city down.
Yeah, it's not an
We
issue of
can't do that. You
it's
can't do that. There are
it's not
people's lives at stake.
it's not an issue of liking.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an issue of I'm going to allow it because I like it. As far as speech and this and that, it's not an issue of because I like it I'm going to allow it. Well, I think we've made our point with that, but or at least we've made it known.
Right.
But this is the standard.
Right.
Literally in America, the United States,
Right.
the standard is literally what we're saying,
Right.
and it's there because it protects everybody.
Right.
But because of that standard that protects everybody, thinking, speech, because of that standard, there's also the what falls the wayside in society, and that will cross the line and stuff. But we can't have a society, because if we did, that followed the rules to a T, everybody, the reason that won't work is because, well, human beings, I mean, we can all sit here and ask, what are we going to have for dinner tonight? Which restaurant we'll go to? And let's see how that works out. I mean, eventually you'll come to a consensus on that. Maybe. But even that is a problem. Right. So you can't make people. So that's why.
And that's one of my major issues. When you leave it up to somebody else to decide what is good speech and what is bad speech, that's my issue. It's nobody's business what that speech is. It's nobody's business.
It's action that we have to be worried
about. I
about.
don't want somebody else deciding what is acceptable and what is not acceptable speech. We've had that fight. We've had that argument. When stand-up comics are going to jail because they drop an F-bomb, that's somebody else's standard they're imposing on you. Telling some mope in a sheet that he can't stand in front of the courthouse and scream vitriolic BS that would get his butt kicked anywhere in the world I don't have to like the speech. It's not inciting anything or anybody. It's making people not like him, not like what he is, not like what he represents. So in more ways than one, it hurts them, which is why they don't really do it anymore.
Switching gears for half a second, and actually we have to. Frankie CNC asked me if is the fuzz box, is that the Arbiter fuzz face or the Dunlop version, and that's the Electro Harmonics one that I was thinking about. Isn't it called the fuzz box, or is it's called the fuzz the fuzz? Darn it! Let me see.
Uh-oh, getting his pedals out there.
It's the big muff. I should have.
But you didn't want to put big muff up there, no.
It's the big muff I was thinking about. This my dog. So obviously we have. Let me see what he says. I think speech is a privilege in our social construct.
And there we disagree wholeheartedly.
Hold on, let me just. So he thinks that speech is a privilege in our social construct, and anyone who misuses it like they do should have it removed. Not the individuals either, but organizations.
Who makes that judgment call? There's my question. Who makes that judgment call? I don't trust any of them to make that judgment call. I don't trust myself to make that judgment call. You cannot take their speech away, and it is not a privilege. It's a God-given right.
So look, so we differ on that point, but reasonable people can differ.
Sure.
Because unfortunately, this is a good example of us differing on a point. But understand, we're saying is that in the example of the KKK, we don't like what the hell you're saying, so we're not gonna,
Yeah.
buy your pamphlets, go to your rallies, cheer you on. We're gonna badmouth you. We're not in your we don't favor you, but you could do all that little junk you're doing, but do it right because you're free to do it in our society. But you can't fricking go and burn those people's church down. You can't go do that because once you do that, now we're gonna take your ass and take you right in
Yeah.
front of the judge. So
Or if you
that's what,
incite someone else to do it.
or if you get somebody else to do it. So that's what we're saying, and that we're saying, you could think you're giving them leeway and giving them an to do their bad thing and stuff, and we're not giving them anything. We're basically protecting the idea of free speech, because if you could do that so look, Hitler went and burned the parliament building and blamed his opposition, and they basically ostracized a group of people. In Cuba, they went in and burned and killed people sleeping in their hospital beds and blamed it on the government that was there in order to win favor the opposite way around. So what I'm trying to say by that is this: you have this organization. People, you can't take a label and say we have now banned this label, because that label is in the sphere of your philosophies and ideologies are in the realm of the gray matter. There is no, these things conjure in your head and there's no way to identify them. People can adapt and change. You can't take away anything from them anyhow. You can only take, literally, they can think they'll just adapt and change, and you'll help them because now they can't express their crap. You can't do that in the realm of thinking. You can't tell church people not to think what they do because they're going to kill their people. You can't tell the KKK to do. You can't tell the Black Power groups, militants. This. You can't tell you can't do any of that. You can, but they're just going to wipe their butts with it, and they're going to go ahead and keep going, change the name, adapt. You have to allow for free speech, but I understand we differ on that.
Yep.
And what can we do?
I see what he's saying here. Take away their free speech as a punishment for their actions. They can't. We have a constitution. They have the right to say. So what do I mean when I say hold them accountable? If they take action, it's on a case-by-case basis. It's on an individual basis. Somebody lights a Molotov cocktail, they go to prison. And they should do hard time. You'd rather kill them than force them not to organize. I'm not saying kill anybody. I'm not saying you can't force them to not organize. What I'm saying is we don't have the right to, as Eloy said, control thought. And the easiest way to control thought is to control language. That's what it comes down to. That's why I don't call it political correctness. I call it politically conformist. Because the easiest way to control somebody's thoughts is to control their language. And if you can't say that, that's a nice way of saying you can't think that.
And by the way, important to mention, you do feel strongly about, I assume that we're talking about this one specific group that you're feeling strongly against, which I actually agree with you completely, other than what I've stated that, hey, the speech thing. But using that criteria that you're saying, there are other groups that other people take offense to that are a whole different area of hate towards other people.
Boy bands offend me.
No, I'm talking about, that too, but I'm talking about other groups that are opposed to other groups in society.
Sure.
And so why? So if the Ku Klux Klan guy, the white guy, can't hate on this group of people, then these other people cannot hate. Nullify it all. That sounds beautiful, but guess what? These are things
Well,
that are beyond the. You can't account and you can't control. You can't legislate it. You can make a law, but people are going to break the law.
mhm.
You can't control thought.
Nope.
You just simply can't, and you
Nope.
can't control a label. You can
Mhm.
ban a label. The KKK is now banned across the United States of America. Nothing. They will just change it to something else, and you'll give
Mhm.
them power
Mhm.
because now people are going to say, "Oh, what? Oh, you can't. No. Now we're going to
Nope.
be called the MMM and
Well,
eat M&Ms, and we're going to wear little M&M
no,
badges,
no,
and
no,
all of
no,
a
no, no, no,
sudden,
no, 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 no,
M&M
no, no,
becomes
no, no, no.
the new evil."
I'm trying to get a sponsorship out of M&Ms. I want peanut. You want plain or peanut?
Yeah.
We can't be bringing M&Ms into this, man. We got to be careful.
Again, the group is made of individuals,
Mhm.
and they believe the crap that they believe, and you can't. What are you going to do? Take them, round them up, and how are you going to distinguish between somebody that
Well,
you? It's only so. Look, let's agree to disagree because there's no way I can't break from the con. Okay, I can never break from the concept, indeed, that we've spoken of the free speech and action. Action, prosecute.
mhm.
Speech, unless it's the fire in a warehouse or in a
Crowded theater, yeah.
crowded theater, unless you're inciting or having other people commit and fraud and these things, there's no power. I have no objection
Right,
other than my personal
right.
disdain for that group. That's
Yeah,
it. That's where I sit
yeah.
because I can't reason out giving that much control to an organization to
Yeah,
snuff out another organization because everybody else might be next and
yeah.
probably will.
If you can, if you say you put any thought out there right now, the moon's made of green cheese. A third of the people are going to say you're full of it. A third of the people are going to go, well, I don't know, and a third of the people are going to say, yeah, he's right. So if you can do that to one group, now this is all predicated on without due process. The court can't take away their right to free speech, but the court can limit them in other ways. And that's what I mean by holding them accountable. If they're standing out there shaking signs and screaming at the top of their lungs and that's all they're doing, have fun. Keep up. I'll defend your right to do it.
But
And I don't care
notice,
who it is.
but
But the
notice,
minute they put down that sign and pick up a rock and throw it at somebody, they are now a threat. That's when you hold them accountable. I can say, oh, I'm going to kill you. And it's just something in passing. I can say it all day long.
well,
But if I take action,
no. Wait,
no, 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 no.
there's threats. You
If
can't say you can't.
if I take action, they can't do anything. They can come talk to you.
You can if you threaten someone. If you threaten someone,
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is until you take some form of action towards that, they can come talk to you, and that's about it.
yeah. So this is where Mark and I are going to slightly, although I agree with what he just said, but we're gonna disagree. I'm assuming that we're gonna start disagreeing. So here's a good thing. Exactly where that line is. We might agree at the end of the day after we've worked it out, but I lean more towards if you're going to threaten a person, if you're a guy walking down the street and you threaten a lady, hey, this and that in the dark and this and that, and she calls the cop and this and that, you're crossing the line. Am I going to say that you
Yeah,
should?
that's again, that's different because you're inciting violence against somebody. That's
That's what.
that's a completely different subject. But we say that I'm going to kill you just as a joke.
No, but if you're
Nobody,
amongst
hold on, hold on,
friends,
hold on, hold on, hold on. Nobody can take that seriously as a threat. Now,
I
if I
don't know.
say that in a group of friends, and then I go buy a pistol and I write down a list of who I'm going to whack first, and I start scoping out Joey's house because I know his mom isn't home after 8 o'clock in the morning, and his dad leaves at about 9:30 and his sister is just, gone with her boyfriend,
Right.
that's different. Now you're taking action.
Let me cross-examine that for half a second. I'm gonna definitely have to side now slightly away from you on this, because to me, I'm gonna kill you has no, amongst friends,
Mm-hmm.
it's still, in my opinion, disgusting, and I'm not gonna be that person's friend ever again.
Well,
With no, literally, I if a person say, hey, I'm gonna kill, it depends, hey man, I'm gonna kill you for that, that's different. But
that's
if
what
it's
I'm talking about. That's exactly what I mean. There's nobody that thinks that that's a
right,
real threat.
right, so that's one thing. But if you're out in the street and somebody comes up to you and walks up and say, I'm gonna kill you,
That's
I'm
a
a
different story.
I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you. If somebody does that, I do not think for 1 minute. I'm already on guard, because that doesn't make any sense to me.
W-
Now, does that mean that the guy should be taken? He hasn't done what he says he's going to do. Should he be questioned? If I call the cops, do I have the right? The cops come and this and that. Do I have the
Yeah,
right to
sure
grab
you do.
my arm, my sidearm, and say, "Watch yourself, buddy"? Do I have?
Yep.
There's all these rights involved. Now, do I think that that's already going into the wrong territory? Yes. Do I think the KKK in instances has gone into that? Yes. But you have to take it, regardless of what that me and Mark are kind of teeter tottering on this. We're in the same area. But
Mhm.
with the KKK, regardless, in this situation, or the KKK or another, you have to take it on a person by person basis.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, so you might think, oh, there's a way to solve
Mhm.
our opposition. No, just because I would not take kindly to, hey, I'm gonna kill you. I'm
Mhm.
not gonna take kindly to that. Doesn't It can be a friend, it can be whatever. If once they say that, we're it, so hey, dude, I'm gonna kill you for that. That's one thing,
That's what I was talking about.
right? But hey, man, I'm gonna kill you.
That's
that
yeah, that's a different subject.
that because you're thinking, okay, what's going on here? You're doing
Yeah.
it. So no.
Well,
So yeah.
Jim Dockrell says, or do things like we don't hire your kind. Yeah, that's specifically illegal. And I've told Eloy this story before. Uh, when I was working in real estate, I had a person tell me he didn't want his house sold to a specific ethnic group that I won't get into. And I turned down the listing. I just said, I don't think I can help you. I don't think I can help you. Not only are you asking me to do something completely illegal, but you're asking me to do something that's disgusting and repugnant. And I'm going to let everybody in my office know that you just flat out said that. And good luck finding an agent to list your house. And I don't know if he ever did, but that was it. I just packed up my briefcase and walked out.
You
That
were
was
in
it.
more danger, uh not that you were, but like, since you were working in your capacity,
Mm-hmm.
of being stained with the crap that he was trying to
Mm-hmm.
put on you because of whatever his bias. But him as a citizen Joe Blow, he's just showing his bias, and he's wanting everybody around
Uh-huh.
him to participate. And so you have all these issues going on, but that's way different, even though it's disgusting as well, because at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
sell to whoever
Well,
you make your money and shut the hell up.
yeah. And it's
But that
flat out illegal. Come on.
but that's way different than, hanging people from from a bell tower. And so there's variations,
Oh, I understood.
but at the end of the day, we're dealing with thought processes, and then there's action.
Right.
Sure, thought processes can lead to action,
Well,
but you cannot do anything about it until the line,
mm-hmm. Is crossed.
unfortunately, you can't do anything until the line is crossed.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, for me, I think it's fortunate, because it protects all of us.
Now, he did incite an action. He had the right to say what he said. He had every right to say it. And he incited me to an action. I packed up my briefcase, told him I couldn't work for him, and good luck finding an agent because I was going to let everybody I knew know about it.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
you can say anything you want, but you have to take the consequences. And the consequences are he may still be trying to sell his house. I don't know. I don't care.
Well,
You know,
so look, um, it's a good conversation. So I appreciate the
and it's a valuable conversation to keep having because it's something that the only time we ever talk about our rights is when we think somebody is violating them. There's something that we need to hold dear to us. We have certain rights just by virtue of being alive and being a human being. And the US Constitution, the Canadian Constitution, Constitution of Mexico, I mean, go spread around. They don't give you those rights. They protect those rights. They're not there to give you anything. They are there to keep the government entities from taking them away or infringe upon them. So, you know, that's something that we got to talk about and we got to discuss. And believe me, there is a lot more to the Constitution than those 10 amendments.
I'm going to be, last thing I'll say, I'm going to be very bold, and maybe not, it won't settle well for many people. But if they gave me the choice, here we go. And this is my instinct. I don't know. I'd have to think past it. But if they gave me the choice right now, arrest all the Ku Klux Klan or arrest all the politicians, I swear to you. And I'm telling you, and I'd say, go for the politicians, please. Thank you. I'm sorry. In sheer number, in sheer actual damage, in sheer everything, but that's my opinion. And I laid it bare so everybody could hear.
That's our fault, though, Eloy. We all pretty much agree that the lowest form of life on earth is a lawyer. And who do we keep electing?
Yeah, attorneys.
Yeah. You know, vote for a doctor. No, don't vote for a doctor.
I can't
vote for an engineer.
Yeah, but I don't want to say the lawyer. I have family members that are incredibly outstanding. So the lawyer thing, it just so happens to be attributed. It just so happens to be in the mix there. But I don't want to give the lawyer thing because they are there to protect.
A certain percentage of them, I think, do a very good job, but the overwhelming majority of them who are just out for the money and the fame, I think, should go sell shoes. You know, just don't speak for me. You don't speak for me. Just shut up.
It's a tough.
Remember, you have the right to say anything you want to say, but you also have the right to shut the hell up and go home.
Yeah.
And I think I'll do that right now.
Damn, you took it right from it. That was like the perfect, but you set it up for you. It's like you set it up and you hit it. I was like waiting for it and said, hey, here, Mark.
Okay, spike it, homeboy.
Listen, thank you guys it was a very interesting. I didn't even expect us to go even down this. I don't even know how we got here, but it's good that it's good that people agree, but it's also good when people disagree because it's a dialogue, and also it's good when people that are thinking people that aren't going to go to blows and stuff. So there's a level of civility that human beings that we don't see out there. So I just want to say that I appreciate you guys mixing it up. So
I do too. I really do. I said earlier, be hard on your own opinions, and this forced me to check my opinions on this. And I have to be intellectually consistent. I have to be intellectually honest and say that if I want the right to say what I want to say, and I don't want some mope come running in here and telling me, you can't say that, you're going to get a ticket or you're going to jail, then I have to support their right to say whatever it is they say. I don't have to like it. I don't have to listen to it, but I have to support their right to say it, because in the end, I'm supporting my right to say it.
All right. It's time for us to boogie. We've done it.
It is.
You guys have a good weekend. Again, we're here on Tuesday, so you know that. We'll catch you. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll catch you on Tuesday.
Thank you very much for the fun.
Laters.